Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Berliner. I'm a Naturally Bay Area board member and the head of go-to-market at Planet Forward. And thank you all so much for joining us for today's Quick Bites on insights for digital growth in the new normal, which I know is a hot topic for everyone given all that 2020 has brought and continues to bring, and the implications of that for food and CPG. So I'm really excited to be here with Jessica and Christie for our panel, and then reminder that we do have an optional 30 minutes of Q&A at the end also for those who are able to stick around. So I'll let them both introduce themselves in a second, and then we'll dive into talking about how emerging brands can drive e-commerce-led growth and all the new realities of our COVID-19 world. So Jessica, if you want to start with introducing yourself, and then Christy, and then we'll dive in.
Sure. Thanks so much, Jen, and everybody at Naturally Bay Area for having me today. I'm excited to connect with everybody. And background about me, I've been working in natural CPG marketing since 2004 on scaling emerging and high growth brands in the US and Canada. And I'm part of Social Nature's leadership team. And at Social Nature, we're a discovery platform for consumers to be able to find and try natural products at retail and online that align with their health and lifestyle goals. And so as a company, we only work with natural and better for you brands, and our goal is to help build those brands in the marketplace. And so we have a program that is focused on driving in-store velocity and consumer insights and product reviews called Digital Demos. And through that process, we collect a lot of consumer demand data and trend data. And so I'll be sharing a little bit of that with you today based on a national study that we did around consumer shopping habits and COVID. So looking forward to the conversation. And again, thanks for having me.
Awesome. And Christy?
Amazing. Thank you also for being here. I'm really excited to chat. I'm Christy. I'm the founder of Nourishing Food Marketing. We're a brand marketing consultancy that help brands take flight and scale emerging food brands like you. I have a background in big food, working at Clorox on Americana food brands that we probably all grew up with, like Hidden Valley Ranch and Kingsford Charcoal. And I also started and founded Tiny Hero, a quinoa brand that brought a new quinoa varietal to market. So I like to say that I mesh the best of both worlds in how we help brands launch and figure out who they are and get their products into the hands of consumers, and combining the sort of thought practices and frameworks and questions that have helped big food, such as, the Coca-Colas and McDonald's of the world that have the highest brand recognition worldwide, but using those same types of techniques for entrepreneurial scrappy brands so that we can create the next food brands like Coca-Cola and McDonald's and change a food system that's broken. So really excited to chat with you all today about how we can all be putting our best foot forward in some strange times.
Truly. And so that's a good segue. I think speaking of strange times, we're going to start by just talking at a high level. Jessica mentioned that Social Nature has put together an incredible amount of data and consumer research around some of this. And as an aside, we'll be sending out a link to some of that after this. But Jessica, to start, can you just talk to us about how consumers are making changes in their lives now that we're at month 8, and not really an end in sight? And specifically, how are these changes impacting the appetite to purchase new products?
Awesome question. So the good news is that what we found is that consumers are more health forward than ever before. So what we've seen is that 82% of consumers are taking a much more proactive approach to their health management compared to a year ago. And this includes prevention of health issues, as well as improving their current health states. And so as brands in the marketplace that are on this mission to help people live healthier lives, this is the best time for us to be in market, even though there is complexity. And so a couple of trends are certainly around the idea of protecting immunity. That tends to be a major concern for people right now. And through that, we're seeing increased spending on supplements around protecting immunity. 73% of consumers have purchased a new product in the last month. There's definitely an appetite for change. And the main drivers of the new product purchase that we've seen in our work are number one, novelty. So like many of us have been maybe working at home more, we've had changes in our routine, and we're just looking for something new, something exciting, something to support entertainment or just making things easier or something that's, cool. The other thing is that the other main driver, which is super, super exciting from a growth perspective, is that a lot of these purchases have becoming as a result of a net new health or lifestyle goal or change that people want to make. And so when we think about that from a market standpoint, because these are net new changes, that means you as a brand has an opportunity to grow net new consumers. And so that's what makes, I think, a lot of this exciting from a growth and impact perspective. The other trend that I'll highlight here is that there's also more of like a holistic approach to health. So certainly people want to improve their eating habits. We see a lot more actual interest into plant-based foods and things like that. And people are exercising more. The other thing that they're focusing on is their mental and their emotional health. And so examples of that are people are looking for ways to reduce stress. Like 49% of people have said, like, I want to reduce stress. 32% have mentioned they want to restore emotional balance. 27% have said that they want to improve their mental and cognitive performance. And so if you are in like the supplement space, there's definitely a connection now between people spending money on like supplements or natural remedies to support these goals. And the other thing that I would just share as a bit of a takeaway is that for brands that are in the space, depending on how you position yourself as a company, there is an opportunity to connect with people in more of a holistic way. So instead of selling the features and benefits of your specific product, how can you think bigger? Like, how can you connect with them in a way that is going to support achieving some of these goals? And so what some leading brands are doing, and I'm sure Christie will speak to some of this a little bit later on too, is like looking for ways to build like content or community around some of these goals, and then supporting the other trend, which I'll say now, which is that desire for more social connectedness, right? A lot of us, we have been in isolation or lockdown at different periods, and it's variant depending on the state, but we're looking for that social connectedness, and that's happening online. So how can you as a brand create that platform and that connection? So that's another trend and another opportunity that we've seen in our data. And then the final piece here is that because people are cooking at home more, because they're exercising at home more, what are some ways you can engage in that at-home activity, right? If you're selling like different ingredients or something, is there a way that you can partner with a chef or like a nutritionist and do like a video on like how to cook a new type of meal? Or can you partner with like a yoga studio or chain and offer like online giveaways? And we've seen that a lot of emerging brands like don't necessarily have the big brand dollars. And so you need to think strategically about ways to grow that consumer acquisition and awareness. And one of the ways that we've seen a trend in is through partnerships and through connecting with others that have access to a similar like-minded community. So those would be the main trends that I'd speak to about that right now.
Sounds relatable. Could be doing
right?
better. Feeling isolated.
Yeah.
That all makes a ton of sense. And thank you for highlighting, some of the ways that brands might bring that to life for themselves. And I think, Christie, I'd love to get your perspective also on, I think we do have a sense of some of these bigger trends. So how can emerging brands who don't have those big research budgets, get their own very like specific consumer insights to understand how to inform their launch and marketing strategies?
Yeah, I think the first step to thinking about consumer insights is being able to leverage what a lot of the big brands or companies are doing right now, like the study that Jessica was just talking about that will be sent out to you all, but also big names like McKinsey, IRI, Kantar, Mintel, all these people are very recognizable names for having sometimes expensive tools, but right now they're all doing free webinars, studies, blog posts about this that we can all take advantage of and think about, okay, how does this then relate to my brand? How do I think about this on my side? And so some of these studies, like Jessica was just saying, highlighting immunity being really important this year. And so I had a brand that had a fruit snack company actually reposition themselves to highlight that immunity this year. We also saw IRI come out with a study last week about how consumers are shifting towards premiumization. So they're actually across all household income levels, people are spending more in the grocery, not just overall because they're eating more at home, but overall per unit. So they're buying more expensive things because they're looking for that treat. They're looking for that at home, like way to enjoy themselves and feel good. And so maybe you could lean into, a benefit of being that treat or that escape from their everyday lives. And then Jen, to talk a little bit more about getting specific to your own brands, there are lots of really interesting, scrappy ways to use the fabulous internet to do that. So first is you already have people who know your brand, who know your products that can answer questions for you. Those are your newsletter subscribers. Those are your direct to consumer consumers. Those are the people who have followed you on social media. And you'll be surprised at how many of them will want to tell you what they think because people love talking about themselves and talking about what they want, right? So I love talking about it. You probably do too. And so we just ask them, send out a survey monkey, offer a 20% off coupon, which by the way, then increases your e-store sales. And then, give a goodie basket for one of your newsletter subscribers who responded to the survey. I've seen up to 50% response rates for newsletter surveys. So definitely use that as a tool. And if you are brand new brands and you don't have those resources already built up, then you turn to really scrappy ways like Mechanical Turk or SurveyMonkey Audience Panel, where you can field surveys and it costs you $1 to a response. And you just have to be careful to do consumer screening to make sure you're talking to the right people. But there are lots of tools out there that can help you figure out during this time, like how consumer behavior and perceptions are changing and how you should change your personal brand, whether that's your positioning, your marketing tactics, or even how you're reaching people today.
Amazing. Love the super tactical advice. So I think we have some sense of how people's behaviors are changing. We're all at home. We want to treat ourselves a little more, but there are also very real, kind of health concerns around going to the grocery store still these days, at least for some folks. So Jessica, what does your research show about how these changes are impacting sales channels? And I'd love to get even more granular than just, online versus in-store, but our specific, retail channels, specific retailers, popping more than others. What did you learn?
Great question. The big theme is that it's definitely shifting more online in general, right? It's that wave started a few years ago and that wave is growing significantly right now. So overall, 33% of people have said that they're going to be doing 33% more shopping for grocery and health products online, and that's going to continue. And the top channels in what we've seen in our research for online grocery and health products are Amazon, followed by Walmart, and then actually followed by brand direct websites. So the opportunity right now, for D2C is absolutely massive. Social Nature works with over 500 plus natural brands, and many of them are emerging companies. And we are literally testing out D2C sampling models every week right now, with cold brew coffee companies, beverage companies, snack companies, companies that are even have heavy stuff. And you would think who would ever bother buying sparkling water online on a separate brand channel? Why would you do that? But they're doing well and they're being creative and using Christie's language, scrappy. They're innovating with different types of formats that you can't find in the store or on the other channels. And that's the advantage of D2C, is that you can test and validate ideas quickly. You can offer something unique to that person. You can include additional content that maybe you can't find somewhere else and stuff like that. And so it gives you a good opportunity, not only to grow some more sales at a higher margin, but also to learn more about your consumer base. So D2C really is the area of growth here that I see as kind of somewhat more net new. And it's also another way that brands are kind of validating their business models to support expansion with the bigger players. Because as we know, once you start to get into the bigger channels, it costs money, it's complicated, and you have to really have a sense of like direction and what is going to drive success in order to succeed there. The other trend that I would say is that brick and mortar is not gone. It is still the largest percentage of total sales volume in the space. And what has changed is that the frequency of visits have gone down. So what we saw in our work is that, typically people would go 2 to 3 times a week. They're shopping cross-channel. They might be a natural specialty on a weekend for like some supplements, and then grocery somewhere else, and then in club for something else. Like people shop, kind of cross-channel. What we've seen is that people are now going just like once a week, or maybe every couple of weeks. And so they are not reducing their spending. Their spend in basket per trip is growing. And to Christie's point made earlier, they're also spending more money on like organic products, like organic product attributes are up, non-GMO attributes, healthier options are actually higher in demand. And so what's happening as a result of that is that it makes it even more important to stand out and drive discovery in store, right? Because the typical points of interruption, some of the end caps, the stuff you might have been able to get before may not be as available. Why? You can't get a meeting with the buyer because they're too busy, or they're not doing some of the traditional marketing and stuff like that. So there are other ways that you can think about to drive that in-store discovery, and digital is a critical and very clever way. If you can get into geofence stuff, doing digital demand generation and then driving the in-store activity. So that's a trend. The other thing that we're probably going to see, just on a general level, is that we might see a little bit more pantry stocking again in essentials and frozen. That's what people had shared with us as the second wave is here, and there are lockdowns starting to happen in certain regions. So if you are in those categories, then I would strongly suggest paying attention to demand and inventory forecasting, and making sure that the working cap and suppliers can support on a potentially increased demand. I think that's another thing that possibly could happen. We'll see. And then the final piece here, I just kind of want to speak to success in terms of winning online, and a couple of best practices that our data has shared is that product reviews are really important. So what we've heard is that to even get listed on Walmart.com or Target, you have to have at least, I think it's you have to have 24-star product reviews. So it's really important to invest in having a strong review strategy, because that's what consumers often use to filter and support decision making. The other thing is, if you are thinking about D2C setup, speed and cost of shipping is important, and there are certain ratios of how much people are willing to spend on shipping compared to the value. So there's lots of things to consider there. And then the other two trends that I just want to speak to briefly here are transparency of product information is becoming a bigger demand. So as people are becoming more health forward, they really want to understand what's in the product. So making sure that your nutritional fact panels, your ingredient story is easy to understand, and making sure that your food data is tagged properly across the top attributes that people want right now, like low sugar, low sodium, keto, paleo. People want to know, and they want to know quickly, is this for me? And they're not going to spend hours looking for stuff. They want answers now. People are also fatigued, right? So the more you can do to just personalize the shopping experience in the online space, which is where the most of discovery is happening, then you've got a good chance to start winning some new customers. Hopefully that was helpful. I know that was kind of broad, but those are the main things I would say. The final point is that in the sampling campaigns we run, and we run hundreds of thousands of people every quarter, there is not any one retailer that we've seen a drop off for. People are shopping at the big and the small. So we haven't seen people don't want to go to Walmart, they want to go to Kroger. People are shopping where they want to shop is what we've seen. So that would be my final point. There.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Super helpful. And I think, that definitely is kind of relevant for a spectrum of brand sizes. Christie, I'd love to talk also more about our truly new and emerging brand friends who might be here today. What if you have, we're about to launch, or, did launch in 2020, certainly it was not the year and the environment that you plan to launch in. What are your tips for how new brands can focus, their births into the market in this crazy environment?
Yeah, first of all, kudos to you. That takes a lot of bravery, courage, and work in any time, but certainly right now in 2020. The second thing is, the number one question that brands come to me with right now is, oh my gosh, I can't do demos. I've been relying on demos in order to get the word out about my product. So what should I be doing now? And my response to that is, first, let's take a step back. Let's not think about reworking your marketing tactics yet. Let's first establish, what are your business objectives? What is that? The most common one is typically increasing sales of your product in store. And then from your business objectives, you can say, okay, what is my marketing objective? And there are lots of ways that you can increase your sales in store. You can have your current consumers purchase more. You can try to get to net new consumers that haven't been in the category. You can try to switch consumers that are buying another brand to buy yours instead. And for each of these marketing objectives, there are actually marketing tactics that are best suited for each of them. So understanding and deciding what's your business objective and then what your marketing objective is helps you to understand, okay, now I know that I have this budget line of demo dollars. I need to redeploy it. I need to support my sales in store. What can I do? Here are some thoughts. First, be digital first and lean into the ways that you can talk to your consumers, where they're already spending more time. Social media, your D2C store, digital marketing, all these are really good tactics that you can get started on a very small budget. Second, use product discovery at scale. Services like Jessica's at Social Nature and Pinch Me really get your product out there and at a pretty reasonable cost. The third is, okay, if your overall goal with demos is to drive trial, to get a new consumer to try your product, then think about what are the other tactics that I can do to do that as well. Here are some ideas. You can pay for shelf talkers in a particular retailer. You can sample through retailer e-carts or, certain retailers like Whole Foods have started sampling as well. If you have sealed packages of your product that you can invest more in couponing through different types of channels, either through like IRCs that you put on products themselves that catch people's eye and they can actually redeem right there. You could use a service like Inmar or Ibotta in order to get your coupon out there. You can literally just put it on your website and email it to your newsletter and ask everyone to pass it on to 5 friends because they love you so much. So there's lots of new ways that you can think about and scrappy ways of driving trial for your product. The 2 more thoughts here is that marketing and sales is always a long-term investment. You have slotting fees that you have to pay back. You have advertising fees that you have to pay back. So thinking about marketing and sales as a long-term investment and thinking that the pandemic is such that it has changed consumer behavior. Like, how long does it take you to change consumer behavior? A few months. Well, we're there. So consumer behavior has changed. So how do we plan for this new normal going forward? It's not just 2020. It's not just 2021. It's forever. So how do we think about changing your the ways that you're thinking about your marketing and your sales support in order to accommodate for that? And the last piece is now is the time, especially November, December, where there's definitely a lot of purchasing, but also probably you're not pitching to retailers. It's not the best time to do that. Probably you're not launching new products. So now's the time to get your digital house in order. Get your e-commerce pages tip top. And this is particularly true if you have been in the market for a little while and you have distribution at the Krogers, the Walmarts, the Publixes, the grocery stores of the world. They each have their own system that you have to go in and make sure you upload those pictures, make sure that you're having really great romance copy and highlighting the benefits that you want to be highlighting right now and actually making those changes on all those pages. And that's really key because right now we're seeing that lots of consumers are purchasing online and it's not showing up as a totally different channel. But if you do online grocery and then you pick up at a store, you don't see that separation in your Walmart data, but it's happening. It's happening at Whole Foods and Amazon. And so you want to make sure that since people are purchasing more online and sort of the click and pick up situations to actually make sure that you're putting your best foot forward there.
Awesome. And I'm going to ask, hopefully we have time for 2 more, but in case there's only time for 1 more question, something that's related, but maybe a little bit of a departure. So we've talked a lot about like tactical kind of channel strategies and marketing strategies, but as a result of COVID, but I'd also like to just recognize that it's been a very, weird, fraught at times divisive year. So Christie, and because I know you've had direct experience with this, how, in addition to how we literally go to market, how can emerging brands become that trusted voice and build emotional connection with consumers, which is really important to ultimately getting them to buy, in this fraught environment?
Yeah, it's tough, particularly in the beginning when you had to shift. We were all, dealing with that ourselves, but now we have to figure out what do we stand for as a brand. And I would say when we think about our marketing communications and what we're talking to our consumers about, it's be authentic. And that authenticity comes from really understanding what your brand DNA is. What's your mission? What are your values? What are your beliefs? What are the things that you bring to the table that no one else does? Those are the things that you should be leading into. It's not your product. Your brand is not your product. Your brand is a lifestyle. It's an experience. It's everything that surrounds it. So talk about all those things. And I'll give one example there, which is that, when a lot of brands started talking about social justice, brands would have a black square for Blackout Tuesday. But then some brands really showed up. And the way that they showed up is by understanding their brand DNA and being able to make those quick decisions. And Nike, of course, is an amazing example there. If you didn't see their campaign that launched this year, it's just phenomenal. And the reason why they're able to make this campaign and get it out there and really connect to consumers and have high engagement is because they know who they are, and they are able to bring that consistent messaging across all of their assets. The second piece to think about is, who's your target consumer? If you know that like the back of your hand, if you have a persona, if you know my target consumer is Claire, this is everything I know about Claire, then you can say, okay, what would Claire think? Or what would Claire feel about this? Or if I said this, what would Claire think? Just put yourself in your target consumer's shoes to make sure that you're saying something that's relevant. And it's not always about your product. In your newsletter, in your social channels, in any way that you're talking to consumers, it's about everything that you're bringing. What's your primary benefit, and what are the other ways that you can help them? If your primary benefit is a treat, maybe, or some sort of decadent indulgence that you have. Yes, talk about your amazing product, but then also talk about some other ways that you can treat yourself. Talk about, taking an afternoon off to go for a walk. Talk about, being able to have a Zoom lunch with your friends. And, there are lots of ways that you can have that same benefit. And so talking about those helps you build your brand equity and authenticity.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you to Jessica and to Christie so much for this discussion. Like I mentioned, we'll be sending out some materials after this, but we also have breakout rooms coming in a minute for those who are able to join, so that we can dig a little bit more into this. I'm going to put up some questions that could be an opportunity for the discussion groups, but if you all have burning questions coming out of everything we've just heard over the last 30 minutes, please feel free to dive into those instead. But Lizzie at NBA is gonna, I think, break us out into rooms now. So thank you both, and we'll see you all in the breakout rooms. Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you had a good discussion, good Q&A. Thank you again to Jessica and Christie. And reminder that if you enjoyed chatting with everyone today, we have our holiday mixer coming up in the afternoon of December 10th, I think from 4 to 5 p.m. So you can sign up for that online and, make a cocktail and chat with folks some more then. And then the pitch slam I mentioned will be in February, and the applications are due January 7th. So hope you all can dig into both of those. And thank you again for being here today.